truly, Joanne Lewis, another program for you today. And of course, this time around, I'm talking to a young lady who normally comes to the radio station where I work, and I always look at people interviewing her and I admire her so much. I'm happy and humble to welcome my guest today. Before I say that, I should tell you who I am, and just in case you're kind of looking at the program for the first time, I am Joanne Lewis, and I'm happy to be interviewing today candidate number 2 on the National Alliance slate. I'm talking about none other than Minister Silveria Jacobs. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
How are you feeling?
Well, I must say I'm feeling a lot better.
Okay.
I'm feeling a lot better. I mean, jump right back into the work, and you know how the work is. So, yeah, I know that it's going to be a rough couple of weeks leading up to the elections.
Definitely.
Because even though civil servants have the opportunity to take time off, it's very difficult for me to take time off at this time. So it will be double work for me for the next couple of weeks.
The work has just begun.
Yes, definitely.
Well, when I was told that I have the minister coming in today, I have so many questions to ask you. But first, I want to start by you telling the people, who is Silveria Jacobs?
Well, I think the people know me, Joanne, but still, I'll oblige you. There might be some new ones out there.
Definitely.
Silveria Jacobs is a very humble person. Started from humble beginnings. One sister between two brothers, you know, between growing up with the boys. Always had a little tomboy in me.
Okay.
Grew up playing sports with my brothers, going to school in Cold Bay. I'm a Jacobs, of course, from the Cold Bay, K-Bay area, so most of the Cold Bay people know me. That's where I grew up. That's where my roots were. Went to the Leonard Connors School, and after the 6 years there, where actually William Marlin was my principal,
Right.
Camille Bailey, and then William Marlin. I then went to the Milton Peters College, Marvo, and then Harvo. Was unsure about what I would study, and then after much prodding and pushing, was sent to Holland to study to be actually a math and science teacher, chemistry. But Holland and I didn't get along very well. And so after a year I left and I went to St. Thomas and I did a bachelor's in elementary ed. The idea was to do special ed, but I was in a rush to get home and didn't want to continue at that time. So I came home and I started working in 1992 as a teacher at the Leonard Connors School where I had attended school.
Okay.
And being with those children have always been my passion. I felt that I've always gotten good feedback from my parents especially, and every time you can see a child move forward in progress, it gives you a feeling
pleasure
that not even your paycheck can give you.
Yes.
You know, your own family, of course, gives you that kind of a love and a feeling, but when a child that you're only with for a year, and actually I've been blessed to have some of the children for more than a year, when they can look at you and say, thank you, teacher, when their parents can say, thank you, teacher, that was a very gratifying feeling. So I did that for 16 years.
16 years.
Then I was a student care coordinator for 3 years, and then a principal for a year.
Wow.
With elections somewhere in between in 2010.
What motivated you to get into politics then?
That's exactly it. A lot of, you know, I've always been one of those outspoken teachers. I was always very active in the National Alliance. And I think in 2007, I introduced our leader on the podium in Belvedere.
I remember that.
And before introducing him, I spoke as a single mother and, you know, the challenges that we face, even though I am a professional with a decent job, you know, how difficult it was and some of the things that I saw as injustices at that time. And when he heard me speak, he was like, you're going to run next time. I was like, no way.
Ready for politics.
I was like, no way. You know, I'm too blunt and I'm too, you know, I'm not a politician. But I've always received good reviews on my job, in the way I work, the passion I work with my children and my parents. And I just felt like I could bring that at a certain moment to the next level.
So when actually you got into politics, in what year? Because if
It
in
was in
2007 you introduced him, that means...
Not then, no.
So
it was when we were preparing for the
2010.
2010 election. So it was late 2009 that I started.
Okay, so from 2009-10 to now, any regrets?
I wouldn't say regrets. It was definitely a lot more than I expected. I think that I have what it takes to be in this function, but there's a part of me that wonders, you know, if I have all, you know, that it's a human feeling. And I think it's good that we question ourselves. And I did question myself a whole lot over the past couple of months, especially when I was challenged with my health. But the people and their encouragement, prayers, going to God with it and thinking hard, talking to family, friends, supporters, I finally felt like, this is really what I'm destined to do. God has called me for this. The people feel that I'm making a big, big change from what they were used to. And I've had 2 opportunities for short periods. And I'd like to have that opportunity for a longer period so that you can have the ease with which to work over 4 years to get things moving from one stage to the next and not have started it, stopped, come back and met it, continued, which has been the case actually, So I have a lot that I want to do. I am quite impatient, so I myself cannot live up to my own expectations. And that is the difficult part because I want to do more. People feel I'm doing so much, and I'm like,
that's good.
I can do more, and I'm not getting through because of this or that or the other. And I have had to learn patience with the organization, patience with the way things are, and if you want to make a real change, that you really need more time.
Well, you just mentioned that you had 2 short stints, right? What do you think you've accomplished since you have been there for those 2 short stints that you want to brag about, I should say?
Well, I'm not that good at bragging, but what I can say is really from the organization point of view, what I feel from them is that a sense of hope that the way I handle things, I am not just a top-down giving orders type of person. I really incorporate the views and the ideas and everything from the organization. And I did that from the get-go when I had my teachers' conferences as soon as I got in 2012. Because I came from that and I could just go in with what I know and what I thought. But I felt that incorporating them in the changes that I know were necessary were important because they're the ones that have to execute it.
It would be more teamwork.
Right, and I love the teamwork. And I can't remember the exact words of this video that we found on YouTube, but it was like basically the geese flying in formation. And at some point, the head geese is tired and has to take a break and comes out of the head and another geese takes the lead. But all have to be flying in the same the reason why they can move, the way they move, with the speed they move and be successful is that they all have the same goal in mind.
Same vision.
And that they trust who's at the front. You understand? And they all feel part of it. So I really want the organization, all aspects of it, to feel part of all the decision making. That even if your decision or your idea isn't taken, it was considered. And I will explain why maybe someone else's or my idea, has been put forward or pushed forward. So I think that that's the best way to work. You get more out of people when they feel involved in a situation. And so my return actually, buoyed my spirits in that, the organization was so happy to see me.
Well, in politics, you wore 2 caps, I would say.
Yes.
You were a parliamentarian, now you're a minister.
Right.
How effective were you as a parliamentarian, and how do you feel about being a parliamentarian and a minister?
It was a transition for me because actually after being a minister for a while, I went back to being a regular civil servant and I worked in the Department of Sports. Many people thought that maybe Silveria was at home chilling, but no, I worked. I'm a person that I have a work ethic that is very, very strong, and it's hard for me to stop and take breaks. So I did have a short break after, but then I went right into the organization. I had not been appointed. I didn't get a besluit, any of that. I just went to work because I was collecting my salary still.
Right.
So I was working at the Department of Sports. So some of the ideas that we've been working on as minister, I was able to move forward. I was helping the NSI get formed. So I was key in that, and we did have the cooperation of Minister Lawrence as well in getting that done. So we were able to establish the foundation for the development of sports. And after that, we had the elections again in 2014, of course, and I was sitting then as a member of parliament. And that was a transition because it is a slower pace.
Right.
But it is by no means an easy one. A lot of people look at members of parliament as if they don't work. But if you do your job well, you have a lot of work. All of the documents that come in, you have to actually read to be able to defend or agree or disagree, right, and implement.
Right.
A lot of people think that it's easy work. It is not. And in fact, I think that that job requires more attention in the sense that you need a bigger support staff. You need more support to be able to delve into the laws and to be able to come up with the changes. As a member of parliament, I went on 2 or 3 trips for Parlatino, and they were by no means a waste of time for me. I actually reported back to parliament on my trips.
You think all parliament,
I'm not going there. I'm not going to go there, Joanne, because I really want to keep this positive.
Okay.
But what I think is that I went to gender equality. I was a part of the committee for gender equality. And I traveled to these Spanish-speaking countries, and I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? They actually provided me with a translator. I took part in the group discussions. I expressed the views of our small island state of St. Martin. And I was actually surprised to find out that St. Martin is even further along in gender equality than many of the Latin American and Caribbean countries. So we were able to actually share some of what we have with them. In other areas, of course, they are further advanced technology and that kind of thing. So I believe that that's an area where we need to work on. And legislatively, the comparisons are there, but it's very difficult for us to look at, they send their stuff in Spanish, we're going to send ours in English. It takes a lot of time to do all of the comparisons and stuff, but they welcome all your input. So we as members of parliament on St. Martin that take part in these discussions within the other Parlatinos, you give your input. You can send in writing, you get what they have sent, what they have presented, and you can rebut, you can put your input, this is how we have it, and they were very, very interested in that.
So you feel involved?
So for me, I felt involved, and I felt it was worth it, and it was a learning experience for me. Coming back to St. Martin now, there was one law that came up while I was there, and the Lions brought it forward, that there was no correlation between the drinking age.
Right.
And I did initiate the amendment for that law, and it should be going back to Parliament soon. So I do feel as if my time in Parliament, though short, that it was worth it. And when my amendment gets back to Parliament, I will feel thus the prouder that while I was there, that I executed some things.
I didn't think you answered me. You'd rather be a minister or parliament?
For me, I think the people of St. Martin who are going out to elections must understand that this is a parliamentary election, and that the people they elect should be able to sit in parliament and should understand what parliament is about. I believe, yes, people who want to be ministers should run also.
Okay.
What the people would know is that I can do both.
Right.
I'm not, so I guess I'm still bragging.
Yes,
in a sense.
Okay.
But I've sat in both seats, and it requires discipline. You're required to have a lot more discipline in parliament because you're not in that day-to-day having to answer to someone.
Questions, yeah.
While you're in a ministerial function, you have your organization, you have constant work that is being generated, constant, that and you don't even get a chance to finish reading one document, another document is urgently needed to be dealt with. Or there's a situation, especially within the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, you have schools, you have sports, you have the cultural aspects, you have people requesting study financing, you have people's financing being withdrawn because of whatever situation. So a lot of difficult decisions that have to be made. And you have to be able to take all the legalities into consideration and then still take the best decision that you can take at that moment.
And try to be light at the same time too.
Well, sometimes it's difficult. It's difficult. And I know, there have been quite a few situations within the past few months where, I'm not going to come across very popular. And I think what the people have to understand is that not all decisions are going to be positive for everybody concerned. But we have to look at the bigger picture, and that's what I try to do in my decision making.
Minister, don't you think that this portfolio is too huge and it should be divided somehow?
This is the second interview where this question has been put to me, and I must say it is very, very big. Because we're such a small island, though, it would become very difficult to maintain salaries for even more ministers. When we look at other countries, some of them have education, culture, and science. Most of the other countries have education, culture, and science, or education, culture, and sports. We've also incorporated youth. But I've seen that most of the I have to still collaborate a lot with the other ministries when I have this ministry, because youth moves across justice, it moves across into VSA, into public health. We're constantly collaborating with the Ministry of Romi for all of the construction that is necessary for all of the aspects that, So it's a collaborative effort across the board regardless. It's a very heavy portfolio and it carries a lot of weight on the budget as well. So with all that being said, maybe we can assess and see maybe how we can make some changes, but it's not something you can decide to do, just off the top.
Well, you're definitely campaigning for the elections and you want to be elected again as a parliamentarian. We would love to see you as a Minister of Education, Culture and Youth Affairs Minister again. Just in case you are there again, what plans does Silveria Jacobs have for the next term?
Joanne, I think it's important for people, again, I want to explain, because when we win this election, and I'm saying this with conviction,
right,
it is important that you have that you have your program. And we had a program in 2014 that was spread for 2014 to 2018. We're only halfway.
Right.
So in rewriting our new manifesto to get to a governing program is not as difficult. But of course, we had to look at what have we already achieved with our coalition partners. So we have set forth on a program that is geared towards improving the quality of life of the people of St. Martin, whether we are in Parliament or as ministers. Who we have sitting in Parliament will have to appoint our ministers, and our ministers will have to carry out the program of the party.
Right.
So as a party, we have a program that comes out of a manifest. We have some new people that have come on board, and that's why we have not put out our manifest as yet, because we want to make sure that they are comfortable with what we have, and maybe they have some key things to bring to the table that we can incorporate from now. Because it's not nice to be running with a party and you're not like, I would have preferred if we had gone that direction or this direction on this area or that area. So we've worked with a company which had established 5 strategic goals, and those 5 strategic goals can be spread out over all 7 ministries. And this is something that I would love the opportunity to be able to execute with a team, with a full National Alliance team, so that we can get it executed with the people in mind. I think what we have proven over the years, Joanne, is that the National Alliance has always worked for the people.
Right.
We have always done things in the interest of the people. Some have tried to throw shade on some of the things we've done. And even recently, with the acquisition of new vehicles, I really want to say this here. We have been paying for years for car rentals. And I would challenge all of those who are questioning us investing capital funds in new vehicles that have been out of service, constantly in the garage for years, and the amount that we're spending to fix or to rent as compared to what these new cars, and we have not taken top-of-the-line cars for our ministers. We have a decent car for the Prime Minister, and Hyundai Tucsons for the ministers, which we did a complete tendering process for and went through the right way. So we were not looking for the most expensive things. It doesn't make sense to continue to pay rent on a vehicle, and after 3 months, when you look at what you've paid in rent, you could have bought a car. And if you look at how long, some of those vehicles have been rented for 2 years, Joanne. So let me ask the people, what is more feasible at this point in time, when we do have the opportunity to use capital investments? Maybe they didn't change the cars in the past because they didn't have capital budget to do so. But in the meantime, you're using operational budget, which you could have been using to do good things for the people, to pay for car rentals. You understand what I'm saying?
I
so
got you.
As people, we must stop and think before we just start to speak. So I'm a very blunt person. I'm not going to always say things that people want to hear, but I would like to tell the people of St. Martin that I always, every decision that I take, it is because I see the benefit for the bigger picture for the people of St. Martin. And yes, we don't have things perfect. Things are not perfect. We didn't meet them perfect, and you definitely can't get perfection in 1 year.
That's true.
We have a long way to go, but I would love a very long road. And I would just like the people to understand that we all have a role to play. Not just government, but the people also on a day-to-day basis.
You don't mind me calling you silly, right?
No.
Okay.
Team Silly all the way.
I see an MP is calling for a triple subsidy for the university. How you feel about that? And where does that money come from?
You
Seeing
see,
that your ministry is only given a certain amount of capital.
well, that the money, the subsidies for the university does not come from capital.
Okay.
But the problem is that our operational budget has constantly been having to cut. Things naturally grow. The salaries of employees naturally grow. So in those areas, we have growth. But if you're not seeing the growth on the income side, it's very difficult to increase in other areas. I would love to be able to give the university more money. Okay. I would love to. Okay. But we have to be able to have those monies on the books to be able to do so.
Have that
and we
MP, don't
have it at this point.
Have that MP come to you first? And
we've had the discussions
okay.
over, I mean, he's a coalition partner. Yeah. We've had these discussions. I mean, the MP Lake has been saying this consistently. So I must say he's very, very consistent with that. And I can't knock him for saying that. Mm-hmm. As a person, he's lectured at the university as well. I've been to several events at the university. I support the university. We would like to move forward with the accreditation of the university so that we can actually move forward with many other areas that are progress, that will signal the progress for tertiary education on St. Martin. But key to that was the tertiary education ordinance, which was not in place, is not in place. Mm-hmm. Okay? And it has started, but legislation at this level takes at least a year to 18 months. So it's not going to be ready in a month. It's not going to be ready in 2 months. So the start notice I have signed off on, and I have assured the MP Lake that it has my priority. The department is working on it. The Department of Education is working on it. And these things take time. We also have several members of the ministry who are working together with all 4 of our partners in the kingdom to make sure that the laws are sort of aligned since our students move from place to place. So it cannot be done, boom, bam, and finished. It has the priority of this government. I don't know if it had the priority of previous governments. Yeah. I cannot speak for them. But from the time I came in, I have been questioning the department, and we were able to get the start notice out during this term.
Let me ask you something that probably a lot of people out there would like to know. When you are in charge of a ministry, do you get your staff in place, or you meet staff that were from, like civil servants that were there from before?
All of the civil servants that work for government are continuous. It does not matter which government sits, which party is in charge, or whatever. The only changes happen are within your cabinet.
Okay, well, let me ask you this question. How is it working in your ministry? Do you have cooperation of everyone? Everyone is working effectively with, as you just mentioned a while ago, with one goal in mind?
I believe that the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports is pretty cohesive. They were in the midst of looking at making changes within their organizational structure. Mm-hmm. That has not been finalized. So they're seeing that certain areas need to change for us to function better. So that's still something we need to finalize, work out in a proper structure, because it went through the process, but the way it was being done wasn't correct. So it had to be readjusted. Certain areas, I mean, we all see areas that need improving, and we are all committed to doing that. And I must say, I do have the cooperation of the ministry.
Okay, well, that's nice to hear.
Yes.
I think we've been talking about the ministry so much. Ministry, government. Let me ask you about Silly now. You're on the campaign trail?
Yes.
How is it going?
Well, I must say, as I just got back on Sunday, that it's going a bit slow. Some mm-hmm. of my people are like, I'm not seeing you. I'm like, don't worry. Silly's here, mm-hmm. and I'm here to stay. As long as God gives me breath, I'm working together with my team. You'll be seeing some things coming out on the social media, especially because with how finances are, I find it really wasteful to spend a whole lot of money on things that you're going to throw away at the end of the day. So we'll be utilizing as much free media as possible. Even to do interviews and the like costs so much money.
Yes.
So we are trying, we're doing our best to get some funds in, of course, and we are getting the funds in, and you'll be seeing I'm getting a new jingle out, or 2. I'm really going for a little local flavor this time. Not really hooking on to any known song or artist. Really moving with our locals and getting something out. basically the same message. Silveria Jacobs is still your voice, continues to be your voice in whichever level of government that she is appointed to represent, that I'm ready, willing, and able to work hard for the people, that I'm still very, very passionate about this work, that I will continue to seek the voice of the people in the decision-making process, and that no matter what, even if I do make a mistake, I'm not afraid to jump up and say, I'm sorry, and that I'm willing to go back and start over. Let's look at this from a different angle, because, you know, that happened. That even happened this year, that we were able to, we saw that we were moving forward with some policies that had not had the input of the stakeholders, and so you have to put a pause, you put a stop. You have goals, you want to achieve them, and I always want to achieve them faster than maybe the organization is used to. I know I harass them a lot, but they appreciate that they have a minister that is on their side as well, and that I take their suggestions seriously. So Silveria Jacobs, aka Silly, still that Colby girl, living in Dutch Quarter, with right in the midst of the people. I'm not moving, I'm not going anywhere. I really want this opportunity to continue to make the change. We have started to make good changes.
Right.
I would like the opportunity for us to continue to make that change, because the people of St. Martin deserve it. And a lot of people think it's easy.
You're in the middle of a sleep, and I come by and I wake you. What's one of your real hot button topic that you would want to talk about right away, that like affects you or even citizens of this land?
Well, I think most people, education. Just today I was in a meeting with the consulate, the American consulate, and they're like, you know, comparing the different systems and what my opinion is of our system. And I think we have a lot of improvements to do in our system. I don't think we're meeting the needs of our students. That's why I'm working so hard to get the IT in the classrooms. I think once we get the internet up to par, we're having discussions with Telem to improve the bandwidth to schools so that they can function better. Of course, all of the downloading and stuff like that, we would have to be outside of school hours to not overload the system, etc. We really have to get Telem and all of the internet providers up to par in St. Martin. I mean, whenever you travel, you come back, you're like, oh my God, our internet is slow. It's so slow.
Yeah, you realize.
And we do need to catch up with what's going on in the rest of the world. We are a small island, but because of technology, we are everywhere, and everywhere is here.
Right.
We don't have to leave even to study anymore if you don't want to. You can do online studies. So for me, making sure that education meet the needs of this population is my number one priority.
People know you to be into education, but when you go to campaign now, are they just talking about education still, or you might come across poverty and other issues?
Everything, because
everything.
I think everything, and they know my passion about this. What is in this ministry? This is just who I am. Some people said, would you be able to do other things? I think I can, but this is what I'm passionate about. I'm not a financial genius. I'm not even a IT genius.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? But I'm open, and I can learn, and I listen to those who know about these things. And I know that we need to do more. We need to do a lot more. We need to find ways to generate more funds on St. Martin. We've talked about and using other vehicles, including education, to do so. Becoming and my God, we just sent out 2 civil servants to Chile, and they went to Jamaica also recently, where St. Martin can, through UNESCO, become an educational center.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? So with funding from outside, with assistance from outside, we can become a hub for education for the rest of the Caribbean if we play our cards right. So there's a lot out there that's going on. We have a lot of catching up to do with the rest of the world. We cannot expect to do it all in one leap, but we have to take the necessary steps to do so. And education, why I'm so passionate about education is because it touches everything. Without education, without a proper education, you have more crime. You have low social economic possibilities for your people. You have, so we can talk about jobs, but without proper education, these people cannot fill the jobs. So we have plans to have the education, the job fund, the employment fund, so that students who especially are in that limbo, are underqualified, etc., will have that opportunity. We are promoting tertiary education through secondary and tertiary education through our NEPA. It's growing. We're getting where we need to go. There's still, of course, more growth to be had there, but it's on the right tracks. So many people have ideas to contribute to that, and we're willing to hear those ideas. So, we have opportunities, but we have to, as a people, instead of just arguing about what's wrong, okay, what is working and how can I contribute? And when we see ourselves as doers within the community and stop looking for others to save us,
Or looking for excuses.
or looking for excuses as to why something isn't working, we will find ways to survive. I tell people always, my mother is always my biggest example of having nothing. My mother had a 6th grade education, Joanne. She was deprived of education not because she didn't want to go to school, but by her guardians. She didn't get the opportunity, but she learned how to sew, she learned how to type, and in every job my mother has held, whether it was as a gas station attendant, whether it was a waitress, whether it was selling stuff in stores, or whatever she did, she always raised to the top.
And she educated her children.
And she made sure that we went to school and we were educated. She said, what I didn't get, you will get. And
Very
we went
important.
to high school and we went to college and we all became professionals in some field. And that is what I believe, no matter where you are today as a parent, it is your job to make sure your children use that vehicle of education to get to the next level. And that sit and wait for somebody to give you a job story, entrepreneurship is the key to get to where you want to go when there's no market for what you feel your skill is. So if you feel that you have a skill or you're educated in X, Y, or Z, but there are no jobs available, then you create the job. You find ways to create the job. So that as government, of course, we have to find ways, of course, to make those possibilities and opportunities for entrepreneurs to raise up.
As I told you earlier on, when I know I had to interview you, I had so many questions. Of course, I edited so much because of time constraint. But I have 2 more questions I'd like to ask you before we wrap up. Sports. What do you think about the level of sports on St. Martin?
It's developing. If we look at the level today, as compared to 5 or 10 years ago, in some sports we've seen a lot of progress. In others we've seen regress. It all comes down to people. Human resources, people who believe in the sport, people who are willing to push it, people who could find sponsorship to help push it, and government, of course, supporting as well. I think that we've come a long way in upgrading some of our sports facilities, and I can say that I had a hand in that as well. I didn't do all of it, but I definitely took it from where it was to the next level, and when I got back again in this term, that we're moving it forward as well. We're looking at a lot of public-private partnerships to get even more stuff done. So it's not over. Several facilities will be upgraded, and we're looking at some private funding to get some of the others done, because we have a limit to what we can borrow, and even now, even though we can borrow that amount because of our limited income, you can't really spend the money. Development of human resources is where government is actually putting a lot of funds. With the NSI, we are strengthening organizations, getting them to get their affiliations internationally so that they can get a lot of resources from the international side. And so now I'm hearing from 1 or 2 organizations, if they're able to get a piece of land, the international organization will assist them in building the courts or building the multi-purpose courts, or assisting them with a practice field, whether it's soccer or whether it's volleyball or whatever the case may be. So we are exploring all of those types of things. But for me, for us to grow sports as it should, we have to have more after-school programs where sports are key in it. So again, there's where you need human resources, trainers, coaches, and that's what we're leading to.
As a cricketer, would we be getting our cricket stadium?
That is something that I cannot guarantee right this minute. What we're doing is that in the past we had discussions with the Cricket Association and with all the different associations, and there were different plans in place. None of these plans have been finalized as such, But there is property available. It is just going to be, whether the Cricket Association will get that piece of property or whether they will buy a piece of property. But there were several different organizations, or I should say plans in place, and cricket is definitely one of them. We do see the possibility that cricket can be a moneymaker for St. Martin,
Yes.
but it is also a good organization. They have done a whole lot on their own in promoting the sports, in getting a Casey Carty on the international scene, So they start from the kiddie cricket, they have the female cricket, they have male cricket, they have children's cricket, and this is what I want for all sports. And we have some of the people on St. Martin, and I'm going to go there, Joanne, that want to say, cricket ain't really our sport. Well, no sport is really our sport.
I heard
every sport
locals were
came
cricket
here,
before.
and the people in St. Martin played cricket before they played baseball.
Yeah.
But the people who are now in sports played more baseball, basketball, and the like, soccer, football. And we don't expect any of those to die out. But the reason why cricket continues to live is not only because they have financial backing, but because the people who are older continue to pass it on to the younger. So I challenge all of the other sportsmen and women out there, if you still have a little something left, give it back. Give it back in time to your children, our children on St. Martin, because they are clamoring for it. At a certain moment, our children reach this level and we don't have the capacity to train them anymore. Yeah. And then we have to export them and we lose them. But usually for education purposes, about that age, we lose them anyway. The hope is that if we have facilities here, that they can then still come back home and shine at home as well. So it is a goal. It is one of our goals. We had to temper with the limited budget. Are you going to push for that, or are you going to push to get this school finished and that school finished and finalize these two sports facilities that are half done? So that's what the priority was for 2016, for 2017 and beyond, God's willing, when we are able to secure more funding. Definitely, I know that the Cricket Association is ready to run, the Soccer Association is ready to run, Softball Association, football, everybody is ready to go. And every sport now is clamoring. And it gets very difficult when, some of the requests come in and you can't give everyone, when they have tournaments and when they have different things. Netball is now having a tournament.
Yes.
Volleyball had a tournament the other day. Little League had a tournament the other day. And government is contributing to all of these. And then, others come in and they don't get it. And they're like, oh, how come I didn't get? And these people, some of these associations have put forward these requests 6 months to a year ago. And so it's part of the initial planning on your budget. And so they will be like first come, first serve in that sense.
I heard your leader saying that he wants 10 seats.
Yes.
Give him 4 years.
Yes.
Once he gets the 10
Yes.
seats. I want to know if I go out and I campaign with the cricketers, right? To give you all those 10 seats. If
You can go out and campaign with all the sports people.
Well,
that
I'm
with
talking
4
about
years.
the cricketers because
Yes,
I want to know if we're going to get our cricket stadium.
I believe that cricket stadium can be had. It might not be a government-funded one, but a public-private one.
Yes.
But that's the goal that we have. That's the quickest way we see it would happen. So as a public-private initiative, and that's something we're working on.
Okay, my last question to you. I know you're probably saying, John, when would you stop? Okay, last question. We have a lot of first-time voters for this election. What message you have for them? Because I'm out there and I'm talking to people. And Silveria, one thing I realize is that I would say the age limit between 18 and 30, sometimes they don't even know who is the Minister of Education. You ask them if they know who the Prime Minister is, and they would call a previous Prime Minister.
But you see, Joanne, a lot of that has to do with the constant changes. One, people have become disillusioned by government. And so for all voters, but especially new voters, I would like to say don't be discouraged. I think we have proven over the past year and in the year that we spent before that we have worked for this country of St. Martin, that we have put St. Martin first, that we've put the people first. I challenge you that I would answer any question you ask pertaining to what we have done, how we've done it, and how we plan to do it in the future. And I would like to say, I believe I'm a real choice that they can make come election day. They can get to know me. I will be posting stuff on Facebook. I will have as many as I can afford out there in the paid media, but they can find me in the free media on a weekly basis. My team and I have come up with some campaign eye-catching things that they would like to do. I have quite some young people who are in my team. And so a lot of my nieces and nephews, so Tanti Silly, no, you can't do it like that. That's too much words. You're not going to read it.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to keep my message very, very simple. And so I will be coming live once per week on Facebook, so they can look out for that. We'll announce exactly which day that will be. Throwback Thursdays. Today I posted my old I'm with Silly song. So on Thursdays, we'll throw back to something from the past that either is promotional or something that I've done, whether as minister or whether I've done it as a member of parliament or whether I did it as a teacher, whether I did it as a dance teacher, whether I did it as a volleyball or a softball player, you know, as a pee-wee coach, to show you the real Silveria Jacobs. And on Fridays, it will be Fun Fact Friday. That we know for sure. So Thursdays and Fridays. Fun Fact Friday, so you'll throw out a tidbit so you'll get to know me a little bit better. The National Alliance is the team that is serious about what we do when we are in government. We might not have the most flags, we might not have the most posters, but I like to say that posters don't vote, flags don't vote. As long as we can get the information out to the people, that the people will make the best choice. And I believe the people who support us should not be discouraged because you're not yet seeing any flags, or because you're not seeing as much flags, or you're not seeing as much posters. I was just in the United States where there's an election, and I saw, do you see the little small stuck in the ground things? I saw one.
One?
I saw one.
Maybe it's
I didn't see any billboards. I didn't see any, you know, I saw ads on television, and I saw
television ads.
Stuff on Facebook. The people are promoting themselves on Twitter, Facebook, and all the social media. But there is not a huge street presence. So what you see on the streets, people of St. Martin, is not who we are. Get to know us. Go to our pages. When I'm going live, ask questions, I will answer. Even send questions via the Facebook page or whichever medium that you can. I think I'm one of those people that the people are very, very close to, because up to now I still get Facebook messages, requests that I have to redirect to the ministry, etc. And I do it, and my staff sometimes gets upset, but Minister, you can't be taking those type of... I'm like, this is the way the people, they can't get to my office, they can get me through Facebook messages. I will take the time and answer. Might answer the same day, but I get to them as soon as possible. So staying accessible, I believe, is very, very important. And Silveria Jacobs remains accessible to her people. So I believe I'm the choice that they can make. Silveria Jacobs, your voice, your choice, the real choice. So vote number 2, vote National Alliance. Give us that mandate of 4 years.
Well, Silly, I want to wish you all the best come September 26th. And of course, we are looking forward to hear all your campaign plans and, you know, all what you have in store for us for this election season.
I only want to say one more thing, if I do have the time.
Go ahead.
I am loving Team NE. We have a good, eclectic mix of people. We have some dynamic, young, new people that are coming on. And so for all of the people out there who don't think that they have viable choices, just peruse the list of the National Alliance. We have quite a group of heavy hitters, and that's actually what has been the problem. We've had too many heavy hitters. But if we're going to get in there for 4 years, we need members of parliament, and we need ministers, and we need people in the cabinets who can execute. So I look forward to the next few weeks, and then the next 4 years.
Okay. Well, Silly, it was nice having you in the studio with me in the hot seat, and of course, all the best again.
Thank you, Joanne.
That has been a wrap. You've been looking at In the Hot Seat with yours truly, Joanne Lewis. Until then, bye.